Hi friends, welcome to the weekly live stream session for the Uno platform. I'm spending about an hour every week taking a look at some Uno platform issues and discussing with people that are joining on the stream today about issues and having fun about debugging the Uno platform. And this week we're going to take a look at two issues. The first one is about the date picker and time picker that is having an issue with localization for some reason, and also another calendar identifier that's not working correctly. So we're gonna try to figure out what's happening there. In the meantime, you may have seen, if you're following our Twitter and or our Xitter, that we've released our RTM of our Figma plugin. And that's a very big milestone, 2 years in the making. So we have a nice way for you to be able to create your applications coming from Figma down to your running Uno platform application. And I encourage you to take a look at what we've been able to do with that plugin. And we have some very cool demos here that show what we can do with it. And we've been demoing it along the way through our different interventions in conferences and others. We also have been posting what are called our Tech Bites. If you take a look here, I think we do have that somewhere in there. And they're probably just on YouTube. So let's go quickly. I think for the latest pieces we had a few around. Let me go there. We have the Tech Bites here. So we have a Figma plugin, generated plugin. We have the responsive markup. We have getting started with the Uno Toolkit library with Steve, safe area. Lots of cool things that you can take a look at and get started with Uno platform. Good. So let's dive into our issue with the date picker. So it was open a while back, and the issue is that the date picker and time picker done cancel buttons are never localized. The months are localized properly, but the buttons are not. So we're going to try to figure out where that comes from, and try to ease up the debugging, try to see if it's an iOS only issue or if it's something that happens in other platforms. So we have a blank app that I actually put out of the issue, and I'm going to try to see if we get something running for the other targets. So actually, let's go and take a look at Android very quickly, and if not, we're going to take a look at running the same application but using the other targets. Let's say WPF or GTK. So we're gonna try to do that, and you can see here that there's no WPF or GTK head, and we're gonna be adjusting for that. So to do this, let's go first take a look at the sample itself to see, coming from Windows, to see if we are aligned with the behavior that's coming from Windows, and if we are, then we're gonna take a look at the behavior that's coming from the other target. That's yes. Yeah, that Dan. Hey Dan. Yes, it's so ugly. There's a lot of, this is the cool part. The rest is not so nice. But yeah, having fun there. So when we start our application, it doesn't start. So probably we're missing a piece of the deployment there. So let's see. There's a deployment. So no, it deploys properly. So we can see if we get our application. No, there it is. So we get a select date here. We get our February. So the next, that's interesting. So the issue was about the done and cancel are never localized. Okay, so I don't see done and cancel. So maybe we need something else there. A date picker and time picker. So this is a calendar picker, not a date picker. So let's change this to have a date picker instead of a calendar picker. Oh, did I? Oh no, I think I took. Oh, that's a different issue. actually. So that one is a calendar picker. That's the issue that comes from, that's the second issue that we're looking at. So we can probably just change that one. Or actually, let's go take a look. Is there a repro? There's no repro there. So we're going to be using that one as the base for the repro. Okay. So the date picker, if I remove the calendar identifier here, it doesn't have a placeholder text, but we're just going to be, actually, let's duplicate that line so we keep it for later. And so we need our date picker. No placeholder. Let's see what we get. So we're testing the Windows one just to see if the behavior is the same for all platforms. So we had our, well, this is not localized either. So that would be different. This is just a check mark, so that's not gonna that's gonna be very useful. Cancel or never localize. So maybe there's another one. Well, maybe that's okay. So that would be very specific to iOS then. And I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to troubleshoot that one directly here because it's an iOS app and I don't have a connection to a Mac on that machine, so I won't be able to test it. But we can go take a look at the sources anyways to see if we're properly localizing that file. Okay, so the path is too long. That's a lot of fun here. Did I have well, that is new. This is something that was added recently. Because I have a very long file. So let's move that project along to see if we can get something in a different folder. So I have that one. I'm gonna put it in our temp folder here. Well, that's a big output. And this is the sample blank app. So once it's copied over, I'm just going to close everything. Okay. So let's try it again on Android to see what we get. Maybe we do have a new maybe we do have the same issue on both. That could definitely happen. So I do have my emulator running already. On that machine, I'm not too sure which version of .NET I do have because there were updates recently. So it's 201. So that one is fixed. So I'll try to see if for the version of Uno that was used there, if the hot reload is working properly. We made a few changes recently to make sure that the hot reload that we're using to apply the changes in the running app are using the right APIs. That's the kind of change that we made blindly because we didn't have the bits to test with from Microsoft. So obviously when you're doing something blind, it doesn't work. So now we got that fixed in the recent builds. Still building, signing. That's why I like being running directly on GTK or WPF or directly on a .NET app that doesn't run directly on emulators and things like that. It just starts up so fast. There's no fluff around the tooling that makes pieces not work. Okay, so we can see that we have OK cancel in there, but that it's part of the native UI. So if I were to set the emulator using a specific culture, we can probably change that somewhere in there in the settings. If I change the culture, is there a culture, maybe language? System language. Languages for the system. And I can do set the preferred language. The system languages. Let's add French. That's one that I do understand. And let's take the French one. France. Okay, so we have French, and then we can move that one up so that it changes the UI. There we go. And then we can restart the app and see if we get something interesting. So our application was called Sample Blank App. So that would be this one. Let's see if we get something localized. So the question here is, because we're using the native version of the pickers, what's the localization of this? So we can see that the localization is the right one. So it's really using the French localized version of the two buttons. So we don't have an issue with Android. So that would mean that this is an iOS specific issue. So we can go take a look at the sources for Uno and try to figure out if there's something that we can change there. I see McNets is here. Thanks for joining. We're taking a look at date picker issue on iOS. Trying to figure out if we can fix something there. I don't have a Mac to connect to, but we can still take a look at and see if we can get something working, or at least try to figure out if there's something that we can change ahead of an actual change. So if we go on loading the iOS version, I'm just going to take a look at which global JSON I do have. Okay, so this is a global JSON that's linked to 70302. So we're going to just use the latest version. That would be fine. And we're going to open the filter for the Netcore mobile only version. So that makes your solution open a lot faster. Now, if we search for, so the one we're taking a look at is the date picker. So we're gonna go to the date picker directly. So we go to the XAML controls date picker. And in the date picker, we have quite a few pieces here. And the interesting thing about that control is that the native version of that control is generally more applicable or easier to use or more familiar with for the user. So what we're basically doing is that on iOS by default, yeah, it's swearing at me. So on iOS and Android by default, and Catalyst to that extent, we're showing the native UI. And on other platforms like GTK mobile, GTK the web, and well, all GTK and the web, we're showing the XAML version. So we can switch between the two, but on iOS, that means that if you're showing that UI, then it will not, it will be different visually from the other targets. So we can see that there's an implementation of the date picker flyout, and there's also a native date picker flyout that will show content. Now, what will happen here is that there's probably some piece of text that we're showing up when we're creating the pop-up that shows actual two texts, OK and cancel, that are not the right ones. So we're going to try to find out which one those are. So McNet is asking, do you test iOS HAT directly on one iOS device, or can you use some VM? So no, I generally test directly on a Mac using iOS simulators. It's working pretty well, if you have access to a Mac. But on that machine, it's not connected, so I can't show you there. But you're basically showing it up, and it will just run the app directly. So what I generally do, and that's something that I've been doing more recently, is that I'm using the VS Code extension, and that one directly on the Mac, and that one works pretty well. And we have as part of Uno we have a lot more control into what the debugger and the whole chain of events and commands that are run on the device, but also locally on the IDE that you have when you're running directly from Visual Studio. So there's a bit of difference there. That's why I'm mostly using VS Code for debugging directly on iOS and Catalyst. And also we have the awesome Sébastien Pouliot, who's working on this, and he's made a lot of great features there. So that's very nice. Okay, so we're trying to search for our cancel button. Is there a cancel button that we have? So I can see that there's a date picker selector. Maybe that's the one that we need to take a look at. So date picker selector is a class that we have on our end. Date picker selector, iOS. So we have native date min and max. We have a UI date picker. We have a mode calendar. Do we have a cancel button somewhere in there? We have save value, we have a cancel. So the picker is directly the native picker. And I wonder if there's something else that's happening here. So sometimes the system is going to be showing up the actual, the system is going to be showing up the content by itself. And even if you force the culture of the system to be different from the one that the application is showing up, then there may be a discrepancy there. So maybe that's the issue there. And try to figure out if we have a cancel button. So we have a cancel here that is called by, not too sure. Still loading the references, we'll see. We have the end editing. Maybe it's something that's called by something else. Let's see if I do final references. Maybe it's this show. Okay, so we can call the selector is called explicitly. But there's no OK cancel text that's showing up here. So maybe it's provided by the system. I'm gonna have to take a look directly in a running app because it's not there. So you can see that the date picker selector is using the UI date picker, and that UI date picker is completely native. And I'm not even sure if there's a way to do OK cancel differently there. So maybe that's the difference we have, because we're not modifying anything. We're setting the mode, the calendar. We're adjusting a few things with regards to how the theme is looking up, but no. So Micknets is asking, I have an old Mac Mini. What is the minimum iOS version to run and debug Uno? So the question you should be asking is not the minimum iOS version, because the minimum iOS version is iOS 12, and that's not really a problem there. The problem that you need, the problem that you have is Apple just pushing the versions. And currently, if you want to, well, it's actually both ways. It's Apple that's pushing versions, and in turn it's Microsoft. So let's say if you want to do, let's say some .NET 8, you will need Xcode 15.0 at least, or 1, and 15.1 requires to have a macOS, I don't remember the name, the last one, the very latest one that was released earlier last year. And the problem with that is that if you have a very old Mac Mini, it may not work there. But there's a cool feature that allows you to upgrade your Mac still. Let's say if you have an older Mac, and I don't recall the exact name for this, but there's a way to have your older Mac be upgraded to the latest version, and they're patching things around. Let me actually find that one. I don't recall the Mac. I had a Mac somewhere, but it's not answering. it's not alive. Okay, so but anyway, if you search, it's a way to get your older Mac to upgrade to the latest Mac OS. And when you do upgrade to the latest Mac OS, that means that you're going to be able to install the latest Xcode. And if you have that, then you're going to be able to debug application on there. Now, mind you, if it's an old machine, you may wait a bit. Not for the simulator, because if you run the simulator, that's going to be fine. You're going to be able to debug very easily. It's going to be building and using interpreter to run the to run directly on, or not the interpreter, the JIT to run directly on the x64, because that's going to be the machine that you have. And you're going to be able to test. Now, if you want to do builds for an actual iOS device, it's going to take you a while, because building for actual physical devices requires to build directly for ARM64, and that's pretty long. So unless you have an M1 or M2, you can expect to wait for about 15 minutes to get something available. So be aware of that. Okay, so this is not working. We're gonna have to test it out on an actual machine, because I don't know where those strings are coming from. Great. So let's jump to the next one, which is the calendar identifier causes calendar to malfunction. So let's go take a look at that one. So we can take our application, so the sample application that we had before, and take a look at the calendar date picker. So what the issue says is that when you run the application, it's going to do this weird thing here, where it should be showing you the full calendar experience as it would run on. Well, this is Android, obviously, so it should be showing the full content, but it does not. So let's go see what we can get. So this is, let's go take a look on Windows what it does first, to see if the behavior that we're getting is the right one. What I can see is that there's an X bind to a calendar identifier. So that one would be a string. Not sure exactly what that one would be. So it's probably changing the, oh yeah, it's using the Julian calendar. Not even sure if we're supporting this yet, but we're gonna figure this out. Okay, so it's showing a different calendar, but it's not messing up anything. And if we go take a look at Android, it's gonna. So the issue was mentioned to be. Not too sure what that would be. This looks to be something else. It's probably, I don't know exactly what that would be. It's probably a copy paste. I'm not sure exactly what that looks like. Oh, it's because the calendar is not doesn't have any date set. Okay, so if I'm running this app on the actual device, let's see what it shows. So it shows calendar date picker. It should be showing up a placeholder. And okay, so it shows super weird. Did we get an exception? We didn't get any exception. It's just showing content in a weird way. It's not supposed to be looking like this, and the date is really odd. Let's see, if we don't put the calendar identifier, what happens? Okay, so if we don't put the calendar identifier, the selection happens properly, but as soon as we put the calendar, the identifier, then everything is messing up. Did I? Oh, I should have started the app using the debugger. Let's go still take a look at the app using. So when I do have the calendar identifier, it breaks everything up. And I just want to see if setting a different calendar identifier will do something else. Otherwise, we're going to go and debug directly in a separate app. Maybe using a. Okay, so it's completely messed up. And if I just, I can probably take it out and just add something else. There's still a debugger errors there. That's not good. Gonna have to report that to Microsoft. Okay, so. We're going to make a separate app just to create that and see if we have the same issue when running on, let's say on WPF or GTK. Let's see if we get the same kind of issue. Okay, so using the wizard, So I'm going to get the GTK head there, which is fine. Just going to copy and paste the content from that original issue and do the same thing. So we have our date picker added. It's added below the text block, and copy paste the rest of the content. And we're going to be starting our GTK. Oh, nope, not that one. Edit scope. That's not what I wanted. So we have our GTK app. So I'm not sure about what UI you're referencing to, Dan, but yeah, are you talking about the wizard? If it is, yeah. Oh, okay, so that one has we have an issue there with this the scaling. I thought we had fixed that one, but looks like we didn't. So let me retry. We're gonna make a different one. Okay, so we're gonna use the GTK one. That issue you saw is a scaling issue that happens only on that machine. I'm not able to reproduce it anywhere else. So not sure why that happens. We're trying to figure this out, but we got something coming up to fix this. So in 5.2, so we should be good to go very soon. Okay, so let's try it again. So we have our card identifier here, and the calendar date picker. Okay, so let's start our WPF app and see what it looks like. Oh yeah, so you're talking about the fact that the plugin originally was designed by you and it was a masterpiece of developer. Is that what you're saying? I would have done pretty much the same. Okay, there you go. Well, it fails pretty dramatically. And that is interesting. So it says added subtracted value results in unrepresentable date time. So by the looks of it, we're trying to do something that looks pretty wrong. And if we change our calendar to something that is not okay, so you can see here that it works properly. So it really is something that is related to using the calendar identifier here. And I wonder, there's your next bind here. I don't know. I wonder if it's, well, yeah, it says Julian, so I'm not even sure if we can take that value directly. Oh, okay, so it's not that target. Let's take, let's see if we can have, okay, so let's put Julian calendar directly instead. Let's see if we can, if it's the string that causes the trouble or if it's something else. Okay, so it really is caused by the that particular change. So what we can do directly is let's go and troubleshoot the app directly in there. So to do this, we're going to be updating Uno to our latest version. So we're going to use a dev build of Uno. So to get that version, we can go to NuGet Package Manager, and we're going to change the global JSON file that we have. Oh, that's not the right add. Existing item. And that version here is defined as 5.1.75. So we're going to upgrade it to the latest dev build so we can override it and make some changes in there to see if something broke. That could definitely be. Or not implemented. That may very well be that we have not implemented that calendar feature. So the latest dev for Uno is going to be 52988. So we take this, put it there, and we just relaunch the app there so that that Visual Studio picks it up properly. That's something that that we want Visual Studio to fix. It's not implemented yet, but we'll see. So we get our latest packages, and what we're going to do is upgrade change our Uno build so that we can override Uno directly in the app. I'm doing it here so that I can show you how to do it in a separate app if you're new to Uno. It's something that that is always interesting to figure out. So changing that version. In the file, it's called cross-targeting override props. I'm just going to be... Okay, doesn't want to uncomment. It's interesting. Don't know what I did there. So I'm going to be uncommenting manually. So I'm going to be changing that version so that every time I'm going to build, I'm going to be going to the latest version that's used by my app. And we go to Skia. We're going to build a newer version of our Uno target by building, for instance, the GTK, the WPF app here. So what I do, when I build the WPF app, I'm going to be, or I may not be, am I at the latest of Uno? Not too sure. Let's see. Am I the latest? No, it's a bit too old. So let's pick up the latest so that we can cancel the build. Just gonna pull from the latest master. I see that I have other changes that are not related. So always, so when you're overriding your sources directly from a running app, you need to override using the latest. So for doing this, I'm building that particular WPF head. And we're going to be taking a look at upgrading all this. Okay, so with a later version of Visual Studio, I can see that I'm running with a 4.9 of the packages for the C# compiler, so we need to change that as well. Just want to make sure that I'm on the latest to be sure. Okay, so this is the latest, that's fine. So we're going to be just bumping the versions for the package here so we can see that we're at, for the latest version of Visual Studio, we need to be on 4.9. So I'm going to be upgrading to 4.9 to find that version. Just run around. Just searching for Microsoft Code Analysis, the preview bits, and changing to the latest final. This is something that we do regularly when we align with what Microsoft is publishing. So with the latest version of Visual Studio, we're aligning with that. And this time when we build, we should be good to go. So once it's building, it's going to be pushing the content to a specific folder. You can see here that it's overriding the NuGet package cache. And it's going to be pushing, it's going to be upwriting what the application's using on the other end. So what that means is that, once my build is done, then I can use an updated Uno in my application and debug it from there. So I see that the other Visual Studio is open, so it's complaining a little bit, but that's fine. I'm going to let it Actually, we can probably close it just for now. So this is a remote control content. So this is a tool that runs in Visual Studio so that we can get hot reload running and other pieces of Uno. And when you're debugging and you're building, then you can see that that file is being overwritten when rebuilding Uno. So that's why it happens that way. We can restart it now. So we're on the runtime tests. Okay, so once we're done with building the sample, we can already go in the other application and test out what is happening with our calendar picker. So there are a few things that are of interest when running this application. Is that oh, that's actually not the one. Started in the wrong one. That would be the 84. And okay, so it's running the WPF version. That's the right one. And now that we have our application, we should be able to put breakpoints and see, if there's anything that breaks, what happens and why we should be, what we should be fixing. Okay, so we have the time, of course. So it says add days for that particular calendar, and that time is incorrect because, well, it's not incorrect, but it's the year 1. So you can't manipulate, you can't remove days from the year 1. You can't go past, you can't go before that time. So the reason, the question is, why would the time be set to that particular value? That I don't understand. And we're in the locals, we're in a calendar that's what would that calendar be? Does it say? Okay, Julian calendar. So we have our calendar here, but it doesn't have the right time. So maybe there's something that was set. There's set date time that's not happening correctly. That happens in the other targets, but doesn't happen now. Or maybe there's another exception that happens before that's hidden and causes this to happen. So maybe we can try to see if we remove that calendar identifier, do we end up being, do we set the time to which location we're setting the time? So for instance, I see that we're setting the time at those 2 locations, at 3 locations. So maybe we can find why that happens. Find out what happens. Okay, so we're setting the time to daytime today multiple times. We're setting it to now, to today, and so that is an exception that's definitely not useful. And so far it's setting the time to the right value. We're setting it to 1924. Okay, so that's an interesting value here. Maybe related to the default value for the, oh, it's setting it to the min date. Okay, so it's the minimum date. Then it's set again to the minimum date. Then it's sent to the end date. Interesting. So it's set to the end date again. And then it's moving all along, to different values. 1924. So it's doing, it's like, it looks like it's doing some time comparisons. Okay, so we have quite a few exceptions with the timing there. So we're setting to 2024, 1924. Okay, so that's very, so there's so many comparisons that are happening there. And for some reason, those comparisons are not happening in the other calendar. So maybe we can get to understand why we're getting that value. Okay, so let's start again. So it's setting the time to today, and to the end, setting the time to 2024. So setting it to now multiple times. Okay, so I'm going to be taking a look at the locals. It's going to be easier. So 1924, 21, 24, 10 years. So it's doing all sorts of calculations to be able to determine where to put the, visually the months on the calendar. But it looks like we're doing something with computation somewhere. So it's doing a lot of computation here. Probably it looks like it's doing the whole month, which is fine. Of January. Okay, it's going a little bit into February as well. I may have to put a conditional breakpoint because it's not super useful there. Okay, not useful. Okay, so we're gonna create a condition so that we can determine why we're getting to that point. Well, maybe we can just put a right line to see if we're getting something of interest. So if time before, let's go for January 1st of 1500. What do we get there? Okay. That's where we are. So we're setting the time to the January 1st of the first year. And the reason for doing this is because we're using a calendar and we're trying to get the longest month by using this particular loop. And for some reason, the longest month is the first month ever, or at least from this calendar. So maybe there's an implementation detail in the get time for that calendar that doesn't work. So it's basically doing 3 months from the min date. That's interesting. Okay, so we're deep into calendars, trying to determine what that does. So if it's not this, so we have 3 months to check. Our calendar is set to the minimum value, but for some reason there's a month that is not the right one. Okay, so maybe it's the min date for that calendar that is incorrect. So let's see if we are going to if we revert to original working bits, what do we get? So the min date is still the same, but this time, so will it tell something different there? So the longest month is still the first month. This is not super useful because it really is that the calendar is the first month, but that's not useful. Okay. Okay. Well, feels like it didn't rebuild because it shouldn't have done this. set to minimum value. Do we still have, no, it's still the same thing. Okay, so in this time it doesn't fail. So this time it actually rebuilt properly, but it did not set the right value. So maybe it's okay because the set to min value is supposed to be setting it that way. So maybe it's a different value. So we're gonna have to find a way to go closer to the actual exception. So this is incorrect. Let's try to find the original exception that was happening when we were debugging this. So this still, I don't know where that comes from. It's supposed to be there's supposed to be a build that's updating, but it's not the first project. Have you seen this, you know, in other of your projects where the build that you've just done is not the right one? It's very curious. Okay, so we got set to min. And the calendar here is having, so it's definitely looking like the piece that we were looking at before. Let's try to calculate the longest month. But for some reason, for the other ones it's working, but this one it's not. So I guess at some point we're gonna have to do an actual unit test to figure out if we can repro that particular bug. So the day of the calendar. Okay, so this is very curious because it's not supposed to be failing it with the same value. So I'm gonna try to break again on that particular piece. Okay, so when it works, is it the one that works? No, it's not the one that works. I don't get it. This is new to 17.9. For some reason, it's still using the previous build. No, it's still failing. Did I change the file properly? Oh no. Okay. That's why. Okay, so let's try again. I kept the bug. That's why it's failing. Okay, so it probably still is reproducing because it's not rebuilding. No. No, this time it works. So there's definitely a difference there. So at that location specifically, it's supposed to fail just right after, but for this particular calendar, it's not failing. So when I'm opening that particular calendar, the longest month is the first day of the first year. So when we're setting the time, it works. But that's because day 0 here. Okay. Okay, so that could be something interesting. So when we're creating a calendar and setting it to the min value, we're setting it to a date that's impossible to manipulate. But maybe that's the issue that we're having is actually the set to min. That's setting the value to an incorrect date. So maybe we can change that. So if we search, so we're looking for calendar view generator month view host. So that would be this particular one. If we go to set min, what's the implementation of this? Okay, so it's using min supported datetime. And this is the calendar. What's this calendar? Okay, so that's the globalization the calendar here. Okay, so this is a public value for calendar. So we're going to go take a look. Maybe we have an implementation difference there when we're taking a look at the implementation for Windows. So if we create a calendar, we're gonna create a calendar. Create a calendar for globalization. Can we create calendar? No, it's just an abstract calendar, so we have to create another calendar. I don't remember the API for this one. Calendar current era. No, that's what is it? No, that's not that. Let's go take a look at the source. So we're creating a calendar using. So that's not the one. How do we create a calendar? That's something that I don't know about. We have a clone calendar here. What do we have here? So we have calendar. Nope, that's not what I need. Day of the week. There's definitely an implementation for this one, so let's try to find all references. Maybe there's another one that we can use. So calendar. No, there's just a Gregor, that particular calendar. So that means that there's another one. There's another API that we can use. I have to say that's a particular API that I don't know that much. Let's try to find WinRT create a calendar. So we got a calendar class. Is there anything here that we can use? So that's the calendar controls, but that's not the one that we want. Actually, maybe we have an API somewhere in there that where we use calendar. We use the calendar in the. Oh. So we have the calendar test here. Do we have calendars there that we can use? No. Calendar date picker. And the Chinese lunar calendar. That's interesting. So maybe we can get. We can create calendars from there. So we have the calendar identifier. No, that's not the one. Wow. Calendar date view item, calendar date. Why is it? It's completely abstract. So maybe there's another one somewhere that I missed. No, that's not an abstract class. So what did I use? Is there another class that I'm missing? Feels like there's another class that I'm missing. Maybe it's using the calendar from .NET. That's maybe why it was doing this. So Windows globalization. Probably that's why. No, I was using the one from Windows, and Windows from .NET, and the one from .NET we can't do that. Okay. Okay, so we have a calendar. Do we have set min date? We have set to min. Okay, so we're back on track. Okay, so if we use the Windows version, if we go set to min, and we're going to try to figure out which date we get from that particular API. And what do we have here? Okay, so it looks like Visual Studio is not helping me that much today. We're a calendar, but the expression is not working. Let's try again. Okay, it's Monday, and the actual date is so the first hour. So it's probably midnight day. What's the year for that one? Do we have a year there? We have an era. There it is, 1. Okay, so it looks like we can do that. So this is first year, but the problem is that when we're trying to manipulate that time and remove, let's say remove days from this, in Uno it fails, but it doesn't fail in. So if we do add days, let's add -3 days to that time. What happens? Okay, it fails. It fails as well. So that's very interesting because the code that we're looking at from that fails in Uno from the implementation that we have here from calendar. Well, actually, as so that particular implementation that we're looking at. I don't know where that is. Okay, so that particular implementation. We're supposed to be setting the day here. Okay, so we're supposed to be setting the day to a different value, but it fails with the Julian calendar. That's quite interesting because it says the day is the 3rd. Okay, so I'm not even sure again what is happening here. So let's go back again to the application. And we're going to be making it fail again and figure out where we get that exception. There's definitely a behavior difference between what we're doing and what WinUI is doing. And considering the code that's inside the calendar view host is the same as the one that's coming from WinUI, it would be supposed to do the same thing. But there, for some reason, it's not rebuilding the app properly. Oh, that we're running Windows. That's why it's running. It's working. Great. Okay, so does it fail? It should be failing this time. Okay, it fails. So we're adding days. We're adding -2 days. So we're setting the day using 1. And because calendar is day 3, that's very curious. That is very, very curious because it's not supposed to be failing here. So that particular piece of code is coming from WinUI for sure. And considering that we're manipulating when we're setting the daytime and adding, making manipulations on the date, we should be having something that makes sense. But for some reason, so we're supposed to be removing 2 days, but it looks like the time that is represented here is incorrect. And if I look at this particular, okay, so it says day 3, but the time that is represented inside says 1. So maybe I'm not understanding correctly the API, so we can go and figure out what that day is doing. So it says calendar day of the month. Okay, so it's the day of the month. It's not, is it day of the month? Okay, so it says date time first. This is returning 3. Okay. So why is it returning 3? That I don't know. So if we go back again into calendar and we take a look at the implementation for the day, here, if we get day of the month, this is coming from system runtime. So maybe that's a difference between the behavior that's coming from WinUI and ours. What I don't get is why when we provided time, that is very curious. Okay, so let's go back. I see that the symbols are not matching. I'm just going to be building the app again so that the symbols match. Well, there's still that file lock, but that's going to go away very soon. There you go. There's 2 files that are locked, but those are going to go away. Not really. Okay, so it's taking a while. Okay, it's done. Still failing a bit, but that's fine. So we're building the other ones. And once we're done and up to the runtime test, we're good. Okay. So let's try that one again. I'm gonna try to place ourselves a little bit before the manipulation of the date. So let's say when we're in there. I don't know if the breakpoint's gonna work though. Feels like it's off. No, the breakpoint's not working. Why would that be? Wonder if it's because of the error that I just got before. You know, where the debugger was stopping and okay. So this we don't need. Those are exceptions that are coming from the tooling. Nope, still not doing anything. So we can't put breakpoints for some reason. Oh, there. No, we can't. We can there, but we can't here. What would that be? Okay, that's fine. We're gonna put a breakpoint here, and we're gonna be doing the manipulations for the rest. Okay, so I got my day here. So let's do it only for when we're opening the pop-up. So we get our days here. Let's just hope that we don't have too many of them. Three, okay. Okay, so I did minus, so it was day 3, so I need to restart again. I'll probably stop and put a breakpoint in condition to say that day is 3. Well, actually, it was value. No, it was value. That was minus 3, I think. So the date that we're trying to remove, value is 1. So we're gonna try to figure out if we get to that value 1. So value equals 1. So let's see. Okay, and in our calendar we do have when day no, that's not the right day. Okay, so that's the one that we need, and we're trying to set day 1, and we're going backwards in time. So before the modification that we're making, our time is set to this particular value, and we're going to try to see why I know they stepped over. It stepped over, so it doesn't help. Need to retry again. We have a lot of incorrect representation. I'm not sure what that happens. I don't think I opened anything there. Okay. So I'm opening that again. And it looks like when I have 3 and I'm trying to get to 1, no, it's still jumping over. So probably have to make tests. We're going to create tests instead of trying to figure out what happens there. It's going to be easier inside of Uno. Okay, so we're going to go and open Uno again, but this time we're going to be opening the unit test solution filter. It's going to be easier to manipulate this way. I wonder if we do have a calendar test. I would guess so. We have one calendar. There you go. We have calendar here. We have quite a few tests already. Testing Gregorian, testing a few things. So we're gonna take, just gonna duplicate that test, and we're gonna make a Julian calendar. Let's see if we can repro that. So we create our calendar, and let's see if we do have calendar. We're going to create our calendar this way by using this particular syntax. The culture, I don't think we need. I don't know if we can use so Visual Studio is not happy with me today. It's trying to, it's not giving me any IntelliSense. That's not particularly useful. So if I do Julian and I think it was that. I think I'm going to close Visual Studio completely because it's not helping me at all. Okay, so we have our calendars here, and we should be able to call our methods there. Visual Studio really wants to have something. So their background's task running, but for some reason it's not giving me any IntelliSense. So I think that will be the end for today, because otherwise it means rebooting and it's not going to help. So even closing Visual Studio is not helping there. No, not helping at all. I wonder if there's other classes are working. It's just that particular file that's not getting picked up. I wonder if there's something we changed in the configuration of that particular sample that breaks IntelliSense. That could very well be. Well, there are a few things that are wrong there. The error list is not showing anything. Okay, so we're gonna have to troubleshoot that one later on because it's not supposed to be doing this, and it looks like we broke Visual Studio in a pretty intense way, and it's not supposed to happen. Okay, that was trying to figure out this one out. So if you're doing some Uno development and you're figuring this out before we do, please let us know. So that's it for today. I hope you learned a bunch, and until next week, happy coding, and bye for now.